There are some pretty funny moments throughout, but it also doesn't tread any new ground.
Just what you've been waiting for. Movies, TV, music, and more. Follow, subscribe, stay up to date. Episodes drop every other Monday. It's the man, watch that. It's the man, watch that. It's the man, watch that podcast.
Welcome everyone to the Matt Watch That podcast, the place for reviews, rants, and randomness. I'm your host, Matt Seroski, filmmaker, film fan. Each episode, I'm going to watch a movie or TV pilot that I probably should have seen but never got around to. It could be a recent favorite, critic's choice, or cult classic. To join in on the conversation, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, at Matt Seroski. You can subscribe to my YouTube page where I'll post videos and clips from the show. If you have any opinions on what I've discussed or suggestions as to what I should see next, use the hashtag MattWatchThat on social. Before we start, we have another edition of I Just Don't Get It, where I discuss a movie that seems to be widely acclaimed that I just don't get. This time around, we're talking about the filmography of Wes Anderson. I've never wanted to like a director more because there's so much I admire about his movies, and I can't get into them. I gave Bottle Rocket a try and thought there were moments in Rushmore. I remember the hype around the Royal Tenenbaums. My film friends were all aflutter. It's the funniest movie I've ever seen. The characters are so quirky. I thought it had a tremendous cast, but was waiting for the punchline. Nary a laugh to be had. The tagline for The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou was, "The deeper you go, the weirder life gets." That about sums it up. The best part about the Darjeeling Limited was the beautiful scenery of India. Now, I actually liked Fantastic Mr. Fox. I'm partial to animation anyway, but I thought it was a great adaptation of the Roald Dahl story. Because of that, I gave Moonrise Kingdom a shot, and that was the last Wes Anderson movie I watched. That was until Asteroid City. I was interested in the subject matter of atomic test sites, extraterrestrials, and UFOs, but shut it off after 20 minutes. I couldn't get into it, and I just didn't get it. On the positive side, all of Wes Anderson films are visually appealing, thanks to his usage of different lenses and interesting camera angles, and have a unique look thanks to production designer and art director Adam Stockhausen, who worked on many of his films. I think he's a filmmaker's dream. His movies are the type that you could have discussions and debates, analyze every minute frame of celluloid for hours upon hours in class. But the element that's missing, for me, is the general appeal. I like movies that cast a wide net, mainstream, if you will. His films have a narrow focus that can only be appreciated by a small community of devotees. Which is fine. You need that variety in Hollywood. And judging by the actors in his cast, people love working with him. I'd actually love to be on set of one of his films. But the end product? I just don't get it. So what am I missing here? How do you feel about Wes Anderson movies? Hit me up on social media using the hashtag MattWatchThat with your thoughts on his filmography. On to the main attraction. Each review will end with a ranking out of 5 stars. 1 star is skip it, 2 stars watch at your own risk, 3 stars standard fare, 4 stars worth checking out, and 5 stars must see. Now if I give a title 5 stars, it doesn't mean I'm comparing it to Casablanca, Jaws, or Seinfeld. I rank titles based on other movies or TV series in that genre and at that time period. On this episode of the podcast, I'll be reviewing The Towering Inferno from 1974. It was directed by John Guillermin, who helmed sequel Shaft in Africa, remake King Kong, Poirot Mystery, Death on the Nile, and Adventure Sahara. The screenplay was written by Sterling Siliphant, who scribed crime thriller In the Heat of the Night, disaster flick The Poseidon Adventure, Peckinpah film The Killer Elite, and 80s cult classic Over the Top. It was based on the novels The Tower by Richard Martin Stern and The Glass Inferno by Thomas N. Scotia and Frank M. Robinson. It stars Paul Newman as Doug Roberts. He was born and raised in Cleveland. He served in the United States Navy during World War II, before returning to Ohio to enroll in Kenyon College, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in drama. He went on to attend the Yale School of Drama, followed by the Actors Studio in New York. He met his future wife, Joanne Woodward, in a production of Picnic, his Broadway theater debut. He would appear in a couple of episodes on television before his first feature film appearance in The Silver Chalice. This would lead to more prominent roles in The Rack, The Long Hot Summer, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, HUD, Cool Hand Luke, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and The Sting. He won an Academy Award for The Color of Money, reprising his role as Fast Eddie Felson from The Hustler. Steve McQueen plays Chief O'Halloran. He was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, and raised by his grandparents in Missouri. At the age of 17, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps and stationed at Parris Island, before being honorably discharged in 1950. With assistance from the GI Bill, he enrolled at HB Studio to study acting. He made his Broadway debut in A Hatful of Rain in 1955. Later that year, he moved to Los Angeles. He made his big screen debut in Somebody Up There Likes Me, which starred Paul Newman. His next movie role was in gangster film Never Love a Stranger, followed by B-movie classic The Blob. But his breakthrough was in the television series Wanted Dead or Alive, for 3 seasons, 94 episodes. He would go on to appear in The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape, The Thomas Crown Affair, Bullet, and Oscar-nominated for The Sand Pebbles. The cast also features William Holden, Faye Dunaway, Fred Astaire, Susan Blakely, Richard Chamberlain, O.J. Simpson, Robert Vaughn, and Robert Wagner. This is something to look out for. Steve McQueen performs the stunt where he leaps from the helicopter onto the top of the burning building. So let's jump into it. The Glass Tower, a recently completed building, features 138 stories in its 1,688 feet frame. It's the world's tallest building, with a mixture of business offices and residential apartments, with exquisite views of San Francisco. Doug Roberts, the architect behind the design, returns to the city for its official dedication. Last-minute inspections uncover wiring issues, and he's alerted that the conduit wiring he requested was replaced with a cheaper variant. Doug brings his concerns to the building developer, James Duncan, who tries to quash his worries by diminishing that a piece of scorched wire is hardly conclusive of a larger issue. He could be covering for his son-in-law, Roger Simmons, who is responsible for handling the wire. Doug goes to visit him and accuses Roger of using lesser wiring and taking kickbacks, an allegation he vehemently denies, saying that all the wiring is up to code. Meanwhile, in the utility room on the 81st floor, an electrical panel short circuits, causing a fire to erupt. Here's a quote without context. "What happened? Somebody hang the wallpaper upside down?" The Towering Inferno is a disaster, and I mean that in a good way. The opening title sequence reminded me of the Poseidon Adventure, which shouldn't be a surprise since they were both produced by Irwin Allen. Maybe it's his signature. There was also a dedication to firefighters, which was a nice touch. This has a star-studded cast, but the standouts are, of course, the 2 leads, Paul Newman and Steve McQueen. Both are such naturalistic actors. There was one scene where Paul Newman was trying to find a screwdriver in a toolbox, and instead of going to the right drawer right away, he actually searches a bit before finding what he needs. It's little touches like that that make a difference with actors to me. The special effects have aged a bit, but I still prefer them over overly produced CGI or cheaply made visual effects. The explosion of the initial fire was effective, and the stuntman was engulfed in flames. The burn makeup looked realistic. I don't normally talk about set design, but it felt very Art Deco and screams the 1970s, but I kinda liked something about it. Now for a little trivial trivia. Another disaster film, Earthquake, was released a month after The Towering Inferno, and many theaters would promote the pair as the shake and bake double feature. The Towering Inferno was the first co-production between 20th Century Fox and Warner Brothers. It was filmed on location in San Francisco and at the 20th Century Fox Studios in Los Angeles. The cinematography was captured by Fred J. Kohnkamp, whose filmography includes war biography Patton, haunted house flick The Amityville Horror, sci-fi comedy The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, and won an Oscar for Best Cinematography for this movie. It was edited by Carl Kress, who worked on Melvin Van Peebles' comedy Watermelon Man, cross-country racing film Cannonball Run 2, and martial arts flick Bloodsport, and Harold F. Kress, who edited split-personality horror Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, war romance Miss Miniver, adventure How the West Was Won, disaster movie The Poseidon Adventure, and White Lightning sequel Gator. The father-son duo would win an Oscar for Best Film Editing for this movie. The score was composed by John Williams? Is that how you say it? Of course, he wrote the music for every recognizable theme from a movie for the past 60 years. Jaws, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Superman, Harry Potter, E.T., Jurassic Park. He's won 5 Oscars, 3 Emmy Awards, 4 Golden Globes, and 26 Grammys. He's the only person to be nominated for an Academy Award in 7 different decades, and has been nominated for 54, behind only Walt Disney's 59. The soundtrack featured the song We May Never Love Like This Again, which was composed by Al Kasha and Joel Hirschhorn. The pair composed another classic disaster movie song, The Morning After, from The Poseidon Adventure, or from South Park. They also wrote the music for 2 Broadway shows, Copperfield and 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. The runtime is 2 hours, 35 minutes. While this does go against everything I believe in, the movie never felt its length. It had a budget of $14 million and grossed $203 million at the box office. It was the highest-grossing film in 1974. It was nominated for 8 Oscars at the 1975 Academy Awards, including Best Music, Original Dramatic Score, Original Song, Film Editing, Sound, Art Direction, Set Direction, Cinematography, Actor in a Supporting Role for Fred Astaire, and Best Picture, winning 3 for Original Song, Editing, and Cinematography. On the Ski Index, I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's probably my favorite disaster movie from the 1970s, and it's near the top of best in the genre overall. If you've seen The Towering Inferno and have opinions on the movie, let me know what you think using the hashtag MattWatchThat. Moving right along, each episode, I'm going to post clips that I think people should watch. It could be movie trailers, music videos, interviews, or something completely random. Search for my YouTube page and there will be a playlist called Matt Watch That Playback. When you would watch cable television after a certain hour, the networks would start to air DR, direct response, which included advertisements with 1-800 numbers to order products. Ginsu knives, zoo books, Mutsi language courses, pillow pets. But my favorites were the CD compilations. They were usually produced by Time Life and featured 4 CDs with a collection of 48 or so songs with various themes. AM Gold, Best of Soft Rock, Oldies but Goodies, Power Ballads. There was one, in particular, Secret Love compilation album that made me vehemently dislike a band. You see, the commercials would have a scrolling list of songs featured, and they'd highlight one title and play a snippet. I can't tell you how much the song Nights in White Satin made me physically angry to hear. That song is the equivalent of watching paint dry. And that band was the Moody Blues. They were formed in 1964 and included guitarist Denny Lane, keyboardist Mike Pinder, woodwind player Ray Thomas, bassist Clint Warnock, and drummer Graham Edge. In 1966, guitarist Justin Hayward and bassist John Lodge would join the group as replacements. Later, in 1978, keyboardist Patrick Moraz was added. As with long-running bands, their music evolved over time, starting with psychedelic rock, before adding elements of classical music and progressive rock. Their 1968 concept album, Days of Future Past, featured the aforementioned Nights in White Satin, but it was a commercial success and launched the band into worldwide tours. With the popularity of MTV, and the release of their mainstream album, The Other Side of Life, in 1986, my opinion started to change about the band. The song, Your Wildest Dreams, written by guitarist Justin Hayward, in the style of synth pop, was constantly in rotation. It would reach number 1 on the US Adult Contemporary chart, and number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. Then, I was watching The Karate Kid Part 2. There was a scene where Daniel is challenged by Chosen to chop through 6 blocks of ice, and in the background, the song Rock and Roll Over You was playing. Before the days of Google and Wikipedia, I had to watch through the end credits to find out who performed it, and it was, of course, the Moody Blues. I still really don't like them, but my stance has softened. I can definitely tolerate the synth pop stuff that they did in the 80s, but the 60s and 70s, those were a little rough. Unless you like 4-minute flute solos. So I'm including a couple of videos, as well as a direct response commercial, Secret Love compilation album. They're all available in the Matt Watch That playback playlist on YouTube. Check it out. Now it's time for the recommendation. Yes, that's the word recommendation with Matt in the middle. I'm going to end each podcast with my own recommendation of a movie or TV series. Today I'm talking about Old Dads. It tells a story of 3 friends and fathers who decide to sell their throwback jersey company to a younger, woke millennial, and have a hard time adapting to the modern world of safe spaces, emotional support animals, and political correctness. It stars stand-up comedian Bill Burr in his directorial debut, alongside Bobby Cannavale and Bokeem Woodbine. It also features Katie Aselton, Jackie Tone from Glow, Rachel Harris, C. Thomas Howell, Bruce Dern, and comedian Natasha Leggero. Bill Burr co-wrote the script with Ben Tischler. If you're a fan of Bill's stand-up, you'll enjoy the movie and hear his comedic voice. There are some pretty funny moments throughout, but it also doesn't tread any new ground. There have been plenty of articles written about generation gaps, and everyone on social media has their OK Boomer hashtags. I was a little disappointed with the movie because I'm not sure of the message. Bill made the younger generation very unlikable, but his wife, teachers, neighbors, all want him to change to be more like them. In many of the scenes, Bill comes off as the reasonable one, but in Art Imitating Life, the character does have a temper and can flip the rant switch on quickly. I do recommend. It was definitely worth the watch, and it's certainly funnier than a lot of films that have come out calling themselves comedy. So you could find Old Dad streaming on Netflix now. That's all for this edition of Matt Watch That. Thanks for listening to me babble. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Matt Seroski. You can subscribe to my YouTube page where I'll post videos and clips from the show. If you have any opinions on what I've discussed or suggestions as to what movie or TV pilot I should see, use the hashtag MattWatchThat on social. Head over to mattseroski.com for all the latest news and updates, and come back next time for the reviews, rants, and randomness. Haunted House Flick, the Haunted House Flick, the animated... I can't get this movie right. It's the world's tallest building with a mixture of business... Oh, I just bit my tongue. Steve McQueen plays Chief O'Halloran. Oh my god. I have no idea what just came out of my mouth.